2 hours ago, Merchants News dropped a bombshell that exposes the most dangerous economic weapon being deployed in the US-China conflict. A weapon that most Americans don't even know exists. A weapon that could determine who controls the future of clean energy, electric vehicles, and global technological dominance. China has just weaponized silver. And the mechanism they're using is so brilliantly strategic that by the time most people realize what's happening, it'll be too late. Only 44 companies in the entire country are now approved to export silver from China. 44. And they all must meet an 80-ton annual production capacity threshold. This isn't about trade policy. This isn't about environmental regulations. This is economic warfare. And the target is the Western world's clean energy transition. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will completely change how you view the global power struggle unfolding right now. By the end of this video, you'll understand why silver isn't just a precious metal anymore. It's the key to controlling the future. Let me start with the breaking report that just surfaced. January 9th, 2026. 2 hours ago, Merchants News published their expose titled, "The US-China Commodities Cold War." The report reveals that China has restricted silver exports to only 44 approved companies for 2026 through 2027. These aren't just any companies. They must have annual production capacity exceeding 80 tons of silver. That's a threshold that eliminates smaller players entirely. Money Metals published their report just 1 day ago with a headline that should make everyone pay attention. China is weaponizing silver using export restrictions. MarketWatch echoed the same sentiment, stating explicitly that China is using silver as an economic weapon. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is mainstream financial media acknowledging economic warfare. And the export ban? It became effective January 1st, 2026. That means this strategy is already in motion right now. China controls approximately 121 million ounces of annual silver exports. That's now entirely under Beijing's control through these 44 approved companies. But here's what makes this absolutely explosive. This isn't just about controlling a commodity. This is about controlling the entire clean energy transition. Let me explain why silver is the linchpin of the technological future that everyone's betting on. Every solar panel requires approximately 20 grams of silver. Every electric vehicle requires between 25 and 50 grams of silver. These aren't optional components. Silver's unique properties make it irreplaceable in these applications. Silver has the highest electrical conductivity of any metal. It has the highest thermal conductivity. It doesn't corrode easily. There's no substitute that matches its performance. So when you're building solar panels that need to efficiently convert sunlight to electricity, you need silver. When you're building EVs with complex electrical systems, you need silver. And as the world transitions away from fossil fuels, as governments mandate electric vehicles, as solar installations accelerate globally, silver demand is exploding. Now imagine you're China. You're the world's largest producer of solar panels. You dominate electric vehicle manufacturing. You control the clean energy supply chain. And you realize that silver is the critical input that everyone needs. What do? You weaponize it. By restricting exports to only 44 approved companies with 80-ton annual capacity, China ensures that silver flows where Beijing wants it to flow. Want to build solar panels in America? You'll need Chinese silver. Want to manufacture electric vehicles in Europe? You'll need Chinese silver. And China can adjust the spigot. They can restrict supply to competitors. They can favor friendly nations. They can use silver exports as leverage in trade negotiations. This is exactly what they did with rare earth elements. China controlled 90% of rare earth production and used it as economic leverage. Now they're doing the same thing with silver. And the quote from the Merchants News report says it all. Whoever controls the metals controls the transition. That's not hyperbole. That's the strategic reality of the clean energy revolution. The nation that controls critical input materials controls the entire value chain. And China understands this better than any other country. They've been playing the long game for decades, while Western nations focused on short-term quarterly profits. Let me give you the full context of what's been building. China's export restrictions didn't start with silver. They've been systematically restricting exports of critical materials, gallium, germanium, antimony. These are materials essential for semiconductors, defense systems, and advanced technologies. China restricted their exports throughout 2023 and 2024. Each restriction was framed as environmental protection or industry consolidation. But the pattern is clear. This is economic warfare disguised as domestic policy. And now silver joins the list. The 44-company monopoly ensures that only large, state-controlled or state-aligned enterprises can participate in silver exports. Small independent miners? Cut out. Foreign-owned operations? Excluded. Only companies that Beijing trusts with strategic export authority get approved. The 80-ton annual production threshold is genius from China's perspective. It's high enough to exclude small players, but low enough to include multiple companies. So it doesn't look like an outright monopoly. It looks like reasonable regulation. But the effect is the same, total control. And here's where this gets even more interesting. China's own domestic demand for silver is skyrocketing. They're building more solar panels than the rest of the world combined. They're manufacturing electric vehicles at a pace that dwarfs Western production. They need massive amounts of silver for their own clean energy transition. So by restricting exports, they accomplish two objectives simultaneously. First, they ensure adequate supply for domestic industries. Second, they squeeze foreign competitors. Western solar manufacturers who can't get silver face higher costs or supply shortages. Western EV manufacturers who rely on Chinese silver face the same pressures. This forces Western countries into a terrible position. Either accept dependence on Chinese silver exports with all the leverage that entails, or scramble to develop alternative supply chains. But developing alternative supply chains takes years. You need to find deposits, get permits, build mines, establish processing facilities. That's a 5 to 10 year timeline. And China knows the West doesn't have 10 years. The clean energy transition is happening now. Government mandates are forcing EV adoption now. Solar installations are accelerating now. So Western countries are trapped. They need silver now, and China controls the supply. That's textbook economic leverage. Now let's talk about the price implications, because this is where individual investors and businesses feel the impact directly. When you restrict supply of a critical material while demand is exploding, prices rise. It's basic economics. And silver's supply-demand dynamics were already tight before this. Global silver mining production has been relatively flat for years. Many major silver mines are in decline. New discoveries are rare and expensive to develop. Meanwhile, industrial demand has been growing steadily. Solar panel installations globally have been increasing 20 to 30% annually. Electric vehicle sales have been doubling every few years. Electronics demand remains strong, and investment demand for silver as an inflation hedge has been rising. So you already had tight supply-demand fundamentals. Now add China's export restrictions on top of that. What happens to price? Multiple analysts are now openly discussing $100 silver as a realistic target within 12 to 18 months. Some are even suggesting higher. Because if China continues restricting exports, if Western manufacturers can't secure adequate supply, they'll bid up prices to whatever level necessary. And here's the kicker. Higher silver prices make Chinese exports more valuable. China wins either way. Restrict supply and benefit from higher prices. Or expand supply selectively to favored buyers and extract political or economic concessions in return. This is leverage at its finest. The Merchant's news report is significant because it's coming from alternative media that often breaks stories mainstream outlets won't touch. When alt media and mainstream media both cover the same story, when Money Metals and MarketWatch both use the term weaponizing silver, you know something real is happening. This isn't left versus right. This isn't conspiracy versus establishment. This is simply reporting on China's strategic use of commodity controls. And the implications go far beyond silver prices. This is about global power dynamics. This is about who controls the technologies of the future. Solar energy, electric vehicles, advanced electronics, these are the foundations of the 21st century economy, and they all require silver. China understands that controlling silver gives them leverage over the entire clean energy transition. That's why they're implementing these restrictions now. They're positioning themselves as the indispensable nation for the technologies everyone needs, and Western countries are scrambling to respond. The United States has started discussions about reshoring critical mineral supply chains. But those are just discussions. China has operational control right now. Europe is exploring partnerships with Latin American countries to develop alternative silver sources. But again, those projects are years away from production. Meanwhile, China's 44 approved companies are exporting silver under Beijing's watchful eye. Every ounce that leaves China does so with government approval. This is the new reality of the commodities Cold War. It's not fought with tanks and missiles. It's fought with export licenses and production quotas. It's fought with control over the materials that everyone needs to build the future. And right now, China is winning. Here's what this means for you as an investor. If you've been on the fence about silver, if you've been waiting for confirmation, this is it. China doesn't weaponize commodities that aren't strategically critical. They weaponize commodities that give them leverage. Silver clearly gives them leverage, which means silver's strategic importance is confirmed at the highest levels of geopolitical planning. And strategically important commodities tend to rise in price, especially when supply is restricted and demand is growing. The 44-company monopoly ensures supply restriction. Clean energy transition ensures demand growth. For businesses that use silver, this is a crisis. Procurement departments are scrambling. Supply chain managers are panicking. CFOs are budgeting for higher costs. But for silver investors, this is validation. The thesis that silver is critically important to the future is now confirmed by China's actions. And China's actions historically provide excellent investment signals. When China stockpiles, prices rise. When China restricts, prices rise. The pattern is consistent. Here's my call to action. First, if this analysis opened your eyes to what's really happening, hit that like button and subscribe. I'm going to continue covering the US-China commodities Cold War as it unfolds. Every restriction, every policy change, every strategic move. This is the defining geopolitical story of the decade, and it's directly tied to commodity markets. You need to stay informed. Second, comment below. Do you think China's strategy will work? Will the West develop alternative supply chains fast enough? What's your silver price target? I want to hear your analysis. This community is filled with informed thinkers, and we learn from each other's perspectives. Third, do your own research on silver's role in clean energy. Look at solar panel production numbers, EV manufacturing forecasts. The data supports the thesis. When you understand how much silver is required for the technologies everyone's betting on, you'll understand why China is weaponizing it. Fourth, share this video with anyone who cares about geopolitics, clean energy, or investing. The more people who understand this dynamic, the better. This isn't just about making money on silver. This is about understanding how power is shifting in the global economy. 2 hours ago, Merchants News exposed China's 44-company silver monopoly. The US-China commodities Cold War is escalating. Silver has been weaponized. The 80-ton threshold creates a cartel. Clean energy transition hangs in the balance. Whoever controls the metals controls the transition. China understands this. The question is, do you? Stay informed. Stay ahead. And I'll see you in the next video.